What is up, guys? Today I'll be teaching you what to look for when you're buying a used bike. I know it's kind of scary. If you look online, everyone tells you different things, what to look for, what not to look for. Today we'll be going through a simple guide on exactly what to look for so you guys don't get scammed. So first things first, let's check the easiest thing that we can check, and that would be the paperwork. Make sure the VIN on the paperwork matches the VIN on the bike. All right, so verifying the VIN confirms that you're not dealing with a stolen bike. Usually the VIN number is etched right on the frame at the front. You can see for this bike, it's right there. For most sports bikes, it will be at the front. I do recommend do your homework before you do go check the bike out, because you obviously want to make sure you know exactly what kind of bike you're looking at. For example, if you do go look at a 2005 Gixxer 600, make sure you know exactly what colorways and what the fairings look like of that year, so you can differentiate between a bike with aftermarket fairings or a bike with OEM fairings. So aftermarket fairings aren't the end of the world, but people do change their fairings for a number of reasons. The first reason obviously being that the bike was laid down or crashed, so obviously they want the bike to look new again. Another reason that I've been seeing a lot more lately is that people just want a unique colorway. So they take their fairings off and they put on a second set, but they end up keeping their original fairings. All right, so make sure you go through the bike and make sure that there's no missing bolts or missing or mismatched panels. Obviously, for example, if this color was like a dark red and then the side fairing was a light red, you would know that the fairing has been replaced. So do keep an eye out for that. So another thing that you should keep an eye out for is the panel gaps. So for example, if this fairing had a misaligned panel, that is something you should take note of, because there could be a number of reasons of why that is. Again, it's not the end of the world, but it is personal preference. A lot of people do prefer OEM. A lot of people kind of stay away from aftermarket fairings. Just go based on whatever you think is right. So after fairings, we can move on to the frame. So start from the steering head and work your way all the way down, and keep an eye out for small little cracks, fractures, or any repairs or welds done to the actual frame itself. If there's anything done to it to repair it, or if there's even like the tiniest little crack, walk away from the bike. It is not worth it at all. That is a junk bike. Again, start on either left or right side, work your way down, move to the other side, double check the frame. I cannot stress this enough. It is extremely important you check the frame. So if I were buying this bike, for example, I would look right here. I would inspect that. I would just double check that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the frame at all. Move over to the next side. And I'd make sure, again, that there's nothing that is visibly concerning at all. Now that we've inspected the fairings and the frame, we can move on to the forks themselves. Usually what I like to do is straighten the handlebars out, pump on the bike a little bit, so that way you can see if there's any oil leaking at all. Even the slightest oil leak would indicate that the fork seals need to be replaced, which is also a pretty costly job. Yeah, again, these forks should be completely bone dry. There should be nothing leaking out of them. And if it is, it's not the end of the world again. It's just another thing you can use towards your negotiation. All right, so now we can move on to the tires. Again, tires are really expensive, so this is something that you definitely want to take a look at. So the first thing you want to take a look at is the dot. So this means when the tires were manufactured. So it should have a 4-digit number. The first 2 digits are the week of the year in which it was manufactured, and then the last 2 again is the year. So for example, this one says 1823. That means that these tires were manufactured on the 18th week of the 23rd year, which means that they're in very good condition. The general rule of thumb on tires is that they should be less than 5 years old and the tread should be plenty. So after we inspect the dot code, we can look at the actual tread themselves. So most tires have wear bar indicators on the tires. Usually when the tire tread goes down to that level, I would recommend replacing the tire. The only thing connecting you to the ground is 2 tires. This is one thing that I would not cheap out on. So when you are checking the tires, make sure you check the back and the front. Again, this is a very costly item, so you do want to keep an eye on it. So now that we've gone through the fairings, the frame, and the tires, we can move on to the chain and sprocket, which is usually the easiest thing to tell if it's been taken care of. All right, so looking at the chain, it's the easiest way to tell if someone's been taking care of their bike or not. If the chain looks like shit, I don't have much hope for the rest of the bike, if I'm being honest with you. So first things first, check if the chain looks clean. It's not the end-all be-all situation. If the chain is dirty, obviously you can clean it up themselves. Just make sure it isn't rusted or anything. After you check that, make sure you check the slack on the chain itself. Most bikes require a slack of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So when you check that, you should also pull on the chain from here and make sure it's not loose. If there's any kind of movement or play here, the chain is most likely bad. All right, so after you check the chain, you should be taking a look at the sprockets. So the sprockets shouldn't look like shark fins. They should be in good condition. Make sure they're not cracked or they're missing any teeth at all. Again, sprockets are pretty expensive, so keep an eye out for that. All right, let's talk about brakes now. Squeeze the brakes and make sure they don't feel spongy or they don't bottom out at all. If they do bottom out or they feel spongy, the brakes may need to be bled, or it could be something more serious like a whole brake rebuild. Again, check the front brakes, check the rear brakes, and make sure they don't bottom out. When you are squeezing them, also make sure they snap back into place, as does the throttle, as does the clutch. All right, so after the brakes, take the keys and open up the gas tank itself. So what we're looking for here is any type of rust or any type of things in the gas tank. Bring a flashlight with you. You want to kind of shine it in there, make sure there's no rust flaking or anything else in there. If the bike's been sitting out for a while, there is a chance that the person didn't do their due diligence and didn't maintain it properly, and it could be the chance of obviously it rusting out. Surprisingly, this bike actually did have a rusted tank because the person didn't put fuel stabilizer in there. I had to replace the whole thing, and it's not a fun job. So once you open up the gas tank, you do want to take the keys and open up the rear compartment too. All right, so what we're looking for here is any type of weird wiring that we don't recognize. Again, electrical problems are a nightmare. So if you can avoid it right off the rip, I would recommend that. Right, so this bike is completely stock, so it doesn't have anything done to it. But sometimes people do put in power commanders or LED lights and stuff like that. Also, obviously you want to make sure the wiring for that stuff is well done and well routed. Now that we checked the gas tank and the rear seat, we can turn the ignition on and take a look at the dash itself. So I saw right there, when you do initially turn the ignition on, all the lights should flash for a second and then turn off. If the bike you're looking at is displaying some type of error code, make sure you go on Google and search up what the error code means. It could be something big, could be something small. All right, so while the ignition is on, we are going to check a couple of electrical things. That includes your high beam, low beam, horn, and turn signals, and also your brake lights. So now that we've covered everything we can visually, let's actually take a look at something that scares a lot of people, which is the engine itself. I promise you, it is not that scary. It's a very simple thing to look at if you know what you're looking for. Before you do go check the bike out, make sure you communicate to the buyer that you want the bike to be cold before you get there, or for you to cold start it. The thing is, a lot of people warm up their bikes before a potential buyer comes, and a warmed up bike hides a lot of problems. If you can start it from its cold, it will showcase a lot of the issues that may not be present once you do warm the bike up. First things first, when you do start it up, kill switch on, you should be hearing the fuel pump prime. After that, once the bike gets going, listen to any rattling or grinding noises or even ticking noises on the engine itself. Usually what I like to do is kneel down on the right side and put my left ear right here. You can usually get a pretty good idea of whether it's making any weird noises or not. Another thing you can also do is, before you do go check the bike out, go on YouTube, search up videos of that specific bike and see how it sounds running. If the bike you're looking at obviously sounds a lot different, then you know something is up with the bike. Once you get the bike started, make sure you let it get up to operating temperature. The reason I'm saying that is so that you can see if there's any oil leaks once the bike is turned off. Oil is very thick when it's cold, so leaks may not be that visible, but once it warms up, it becomes a lot thinner. It'll get in small crevices and small cracks, and we can use that to our advantage to see if there's any oil leaks at all. So once the bike hits operating temperature, you do want to turn it off and check the oil level. Make sure the bike is on a flat and level ground, and you hold it upright. So every motorcycle will have a sight glass where you can see what the oil level actually is. It is usually sitting on the right side, right under the clutch cover. Again, make sure the bike is upright and on level ground. If mine looks empty, don't worry. It's because I'm actually on a hill, which is the reason why I can't show my oil level properly. But I will place a little diagram right here. So the sight glass is usually a circle. It'll have two little indicators that show the level in which the oil should be between. If the sight glass is overfilled or underfilled, do take a note of that because it could mean that the bike was not taken care of. All right, so up until this point, we've taken a look at a lot of things on the bike. And if you're still happy with the bike up until this point, now's the fun part, the test ride. So a lot of sellers do require a cash deposit or a cash in hand for you to ride the bike, which is obviously justifiable. If you crash the bike or run away with it, they want to make sure that they get their full money's worth. All right, so once you actually get the bike on the road, you want to go through a couple things again. Make sure you shift through all the gears. So if you have a 5-speed, make sure you go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you have a 6-speed, make sure you go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I'm not saying become Valentino Rossi, but I am saying make sure you go through all the gears. This is very important. And while you are riding, make sure you guys do keep, your ears open for any weird noises that you hear. Obviously, there's the big things like the engine and the gears, but there's also the small things that you guys should keep an eye out for. So braking, make sure again the brakes don't feel spongy or they don't bottom out while you are riding or under load. And then obviously the clutch, just make sure it engages and disengages appropriately. All right, so once you're done the test ride, if you still like the bike, now's the time to negotiate with the seller. Keep in mind everything that we talked about. I'm hoping that you guys took mental notes of any flaws or anything that you saw on the bike and use it to your advantage when you guys do negotiate. That's it. That's all there is to it. Congratulations, you guys bought your first used bike and you didn't get scammed. I know, crazy. But jokes aside, it's a very simple process. Once you get the hang of one, the second one's easier, third, fourth, fifth, it just becomes easier and easier. I am a very firm believer of buying used. I don't buy any of my bikes brand new. All the bikes behind me were bought used. The F4i, the S1K, even the Hayabusa, they were all bought used. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and actually learned a couple things about buying a used bike. See you guys in the next one.